become functional perfectly. I want to ask about your business model because, as far as I understand, you are doing this through donations and not taking any advertising. What challenges put this on you, and do you have any changes in mind for the future?
So we are a charity. So we're a nonprofit organization with the goal of giving a free encyclopedia to everyone on the planet in their own language. And so we've chosen always to be free of advertising. There are a lot of good reasons for that, and the model works for us. So what are the challenges? Obviously, it does constrain the amount of money that we have. Our current budget is about $60 million per year. Which for the number 5 website in the world is a fairly small budget. But we're able to exist with that because we have a huge volunteer community doing most of the work. And we try to run the organization, the actual Wikimedia Foundation, in a very financially responsible and conservative fashion. So over the years, we've built up our reserves. We have typically between 1 and 1.5 years worth of financial reserves. Which is the recommended amount for a nonprofit of our size. So we have to take the fundraising very seriously. One of the things that we're really happy about is that our fundraising is largely done with the small donors. So people giving 50, 100 euros, that's really the backbone of the money. And that's important because it means that our community can be very independent. If we were dependent on 1 or 2 really large donors, then obviously if those donors want something, it's very difficult to say no. As it is now, we do have some large donors and we appreciate that, but they don't have any ability to dictate our policies simply because that's not where the core money comes from.
Anna Kochman, the Transdout role. I wanted to ask you, which was your inspiration for creating Wikipedia? I mean, what did you think that was going to happen, and how did it shape itself along these years? And how would you like to be remembered in, let's say, 100 years, and also Wikipedia? Thank you.
So the main inspiration for Wikipedia was I was watching the growth of open source software, free software, and seeing all the great software that really runs the internet. So GNU Linux, Apache, Perl, MySQL, PHP, are all open source software packages written primarily by volunteers, coming together to collaborate online. To build really great things, and I realized that kind of collaboration could extend beyond just software into all kinds of cultural works. And so that was the original idea for Wikipedia, is to say what are some other things that people could come through and do using open licensing and so forth. In terms of how Wikipedia should be remembered in 100 years, well, I hope people are still using Wikipedia, so they remember it as that website I used this morning. But certainly, I think when we look back, we're still very much in the early days of the internet. As you say, Tim Berners-Lee was here last year, celebrating the 25th year of the World Wide Web. So 25 years sounds like a long time, but really, if you think about the history of the automobile, 25 years into the automobile, it was still a very primitive technology, and it still was a long way from where it is today. And I think the same thing about the web. We're still in very early days, and I think when people look back on the early days of the internet, they'll look at Wikipedia and they'll say, oh, that was something really good in a very difficult era of terrorism and conflict, that a group of people came together as volunteers in a charitable spirit to try to give knowledge to everyone. It's a good thing, and I think our volunteers are very happy to be part of something that in a difficult world is a good thing. So I hope that's how we're remembered. And as for me personally, I don't know if anyone will remember me. Maybe they'll remember I have great shoes.
Despite social media, which emphasize pictures and video, Wikipedia is rather about text. Would you continue this, or do you have in mind also some migrations toward multimedia?
So I think there's not a huge amount of demand from our volunteers for more video. I mean, we do have some video tools. There is some video in Wikipedia, but for the bulk of what's in Wikipedia, video wouldn't really be an enhancement. It's not something that we're really pushing for. What I can see is in some cases, video could be useful, and in certain cases, I think not so much video, but more multimedia type of experiences. So the classic simple example is the internal combustion engine with the movement of the pistons and the valves. If you read a description of it, it's very hard to understand. You see a picture one time and you go, oh, I see, I understand now. So there are certain things like that where I do think that animation can be very useful. One of the interesting projects that I've seen is we had a volunteer, Basil Kartabil, who was working with a group of people on a 3D model of Palmyra, which is a very important historical location in Syria. Unfortunately, Basil was arrested. He's currently missing. We don't know what happened to him. So I've been involved in a campaign to pressure the Syrian government to at least tell where is Basil. So that's a side topic. But this kind of work where they've got a 3D model of something, which means that building on the 3D model, you can imagine a really interesting interface where you're able to zoom around and then click on certain things and read about certain artifacts, say in a museum or in a historical city or things like that. Those kinds of things are very exciting. Right now, they're very primitive for us, but I think there are some interesting concepts we can explore.
One very quick question, last, I promise.
Wiki question.
Do Wikipedia has any political problem? Like we know some social media are forbidden in some areas of the world. Do you face this?
Yeah, so we do. We have always taken a very strong approach that we won't compromise on censorship, and I think we're very rare in this regard. Most internet providers are they're not so strong as we are on this point. So currently we're completely banned in China. We've been banned before in China, and we were made accessible again, and now we're banned again. I just visited China in December to meet with the minister to discuss the issue. We were having further talks, but it's very difficult because we won't compromise, and they say they won't compromise, so it's a tough situation.